thankful for the way these stories hold on to the lifetime we won't get back. I know these rivers carry on. People tend to stick to you after time. Places tend to do the same as we do. This river carries on and on.
Hello and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake LaMore, and we find ourselves once again on location today back in Grant Park, except we're not way on the outskirts of town at a farm. We're actually inside the town of Grant Park at probably the most well-known house in Grant Park. When people think of Grant Park, I feel like the first place they think of is the Bennett-Curtis House, and we are joined by Scott Zizic. Zizic. Okay,
Yes.
I was going to ask you. I've only known you as Scott or Scott Z, so I wasn't sure what
Sure.
your last name actually was.
Yep.
So welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you.
It's so great to have you here. Thank you for inviting me out or letting me. I guess I asked if I could come out. You said yes, so thank you.
You're welcome.
You for
No problem.
that. We're sitting in what is
Our main dining room.
the main dining room right now at Bennett-Curtis House. I guess let's start at the beginning. What is the history for Bennett-Curtis House begin?
Well, Bennett-Curtis, the name itself is historical. George Bennett was the builder of the home. He was one of the founders in Grant Park here. He owned the lumber yard in town, so he actually built this mansion here.
With the
in 19
lumber from...
Yep, from the lumber, 1900. It's solid walnut joists throughout the house itself, so there's actually very, very sturdy setup. Our oak pocket doors, we still have our pocket doors here in the main room that do work.
Okay.
So solid
now, yeah.
oak with the 5-inch wheels on top.
Is that the
Very
same
heavy.
for the
The
floor here?
inlays are solid oak as well, and that was all put in. All that little peacock decor was done by hand by somebody crafting that and making each one of those pieces fit throughout. And at this room and the room that behind us, the dining room, middle dining room there also has that same inlay as well. Crown molding is throughout the entire house. Actually, the second floor has crown molding, which is kind of unusual. But the center, that's where our second part of the name comes in, is Curtis. Senator Curtis had purchased a home in 1919, and they did a little bit of renovation. They actually opened this room, was 2 rooms that we were sitting in. They had a divider in here, and they actually opened it up so they could entertain more guests.
So this was their
whatnot.
dining room too originally?
No,
or...
originally the dining room was actually the second room there. There actually was a doorway that came in where the picture window was, so you could
Okay.
actually enter off there. But the wraparound porch is the original wraparound porch. It actually came around. There wasn't a little bit of an addition, but if you went outside and looked at the coach house, the senator had set it up that the coach actually circled around and picked them up on the porch itself on the side here, so he didn't have to walk out. Weather was inclement, he was able to jump right in his carriage and go. The carriage had like doors on both sides, so you could go in and out.
He had it made.
And it was-
So when Bennett built this house then in 1900, it wasn't originally built for Curtis then. Was it built for Bennett? Was
for
it
Bennett, for one of his daughters. Yeah, one
One
of
of
the
his
kids.
daughters,
Yeah,
okay.
he built homes for all his kids in town. So there's still 3 or 4 of the homes still here. His mom's house is down the street, and there's a farm out on Route 1 was built as well, and they're still farming out there, and that home's still standing. So all the houses are still
do you know if the Bennett family still has
there are
ownership of any of those properties?
They do not. No.
So
They've all
moved on.
moved
Okay,
yeah.
That's what I was curious about. If
Yeah.
any of the Bennetts had any of those properties, not that you know
Not
of.
that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
No, I think it's all
So Senator Curtis bought this in 1919, and how long did he live here then? And his senator for
Illinois Senate.
Illinois Senate. Okay.
Yeah, his dad owned the bank in town. Also owned the brickyard where Lake Matagna is. That's where they dug that out for the clay. I guess there's a story that went around that his dad had a bid with Sears Robot Company for bricks, and he got it because he had the competitor's brick and his brick. They dropped them. His brick didn't break. He got the job, or so the story goes. We're not 100% if that's true.
I love that story.
But the railroad that goes through town here was here at that time as well. So Lake Matagna was a couple blocks away, so they really could go 2 blocks, put it on the rail cars, and ship it pretty much anywhere up to Chicago or whatever. So obviously they did very well. The senator was the youngest Speaker of the House at that time. He was in the Senate at the same time Governor Small was here. He was being primed probably to be the next governor. Unfortunately, he passed away about a year after he had purchased a house here. So he caught pneumonia and actually died in the house, main master bedroom here. So unfortunately, it didn't come to.
How old was he?
He wasn't very old. I think he was just in his late 30s.
So he literally only lived here a year?
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't here very long. Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing the impact, though, that he had on the house just from that moment, right?
Yeah.
Just from that 1 year.
I guess going back, it just seems to be a location that's always been set up for receptions and whatnot. Actually, the senator had his reception here back then with his wife. They actually, house that's next to us here, the Graves, he was a ring bearer. So he has passed since, but he told some stories about, coming over and growing up with that here. But unfortunately, the senator didn't, had passed away then.
So Senator Curtis passes away. Does his family continue to live here?
His wife actually did such a massive property that she decided that she actually moved into the house behind us with that family there. Later on, she eventually just gave the house to the bank. Bank set it up as a boarding house for a little while. It was a boarding house for a while. And then later on, it became a single family home again. It was an older couple that purchased the house.
Do you think it became a boarding house probably in the 30s? 1930s?
Yeah. And it stayed that way for quite a while. And then they sold it. Older couple had taken it over, and they actually traded mortgages with another family in Chicago Heights that had a family of 6. So they moved in, they took their other house. Yeah, it was just an odd thing. But
you don't hear that too often anymore.
No.
Hey, you want to trade
trade homes or whatever. So, and I'm quite sure he's like, oh, that all worked out. But as far as I understood, that's kind of how that came about. And they were here for quite a while, the family. And then after they moved out, another older couple 2 teachers took it over and started the actual Bennett-Curtis House before we took over. And they had it about seven years before they had closed. It was closed about 2 years before we took over. And then we've been here now about 30 years.
So when those 2 teachers had control over it, what were they doing with the home?
They had set up a little bit different. They used the 3 dining rooms here. Actually, the back was open porch at that time. So that wasn't enclosed as it is now. We enclosed it when we took over.
Because that originally it was just a big open porch.
Open porch in the back, yeah. So it wasn't enclosed in at all. So that was one of the first things we did. Like when we came in, we kind of converted that into a closed area so we could use it over the winter months. Because obviously it was only a functional weather permitting type thing.
You needed to have it.
So we had kind of plans of getting a little bit larger events. They did smaller events, more price fixie type menus, set menus, 7-course type things, 6 courses, that type of setup.
Are you originally from Grant Park, or where are you from, Scott?
I'm not originally from Grant Park. I actually grew up in the home of Flossmoor area, but I've been in food my entire life since I was 12 or 13 years old.
Your family have a background
I had
in?
an uncle that had a small pub type location, and started cooking with him, and then kind of moved around a little bit and moved in some other kitchens. Actually, I was in Georgia for a while. My family moved down there. So we were in Marietta and learned from a chef when I was in high school. He kind of took me under his wings, and that's kind of how I learned how to cook was with the chef. He basically I was a dishwasher at that point, and he like wanted the extra help. So kind of an unusual situation. It was a smaller kitchen in a hotel, and pulled me over there and taught me how to do all the prep and set up and cook with him. And then
what was the first thing you remember learning? How to prep?
Prime rib, actually.
Wow.
We did a lot. Yeah, we did a lot of prime rib there. It was one of his specialties, and he kind of just, that was one of those things you did real early in the, start of your shift, get it prepped and marinate it out and get it in there and get it ready for the day or whatever. And
what kind of spices were you putting, or how do you marinate prime rib? How do you?
We use a wet and a dry rub type situation with that. We do like a Worcestershire wet rub. We do a dry mixture of garlic, salt, pepper, basil, bay leaf, that type of thing. So and we let it marinate overnight usually.
You grow up in between Illinois and Georgia, spending time there. Then you eventually come back to Illinois, right?
Kind of a roundabout way to get to this location here. I actually worked in the corporate aspect of it. I worked for Perkins.
The restaurant, right?
Restaurant for Perkins. I worked on both. I worked for the corporate, and then I also worked for the franchise side because I ended up going down to Florida as well. So kind of started out in Illinois with Perkins, went up to Wisconsin.
Is Perkins still around?
They are still around, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they're still here. Not in Illinois.
I'm trying to remember
Wisconsin, there's some still.
I went to
Minnesota.
Perkins one time, maybe two times, and I can't even remember where it was. It must not have been Illinois.
They had Bradley. They had a location here.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It definitely wasn't local. It was like either in Southern Illinois or
the
Indiana
old
or
Perkins here is the building that, drawing a blank on the restaurant, in front of Turks.
Oh, right now it's Yolks and Berries.
Oh, Yolks and Berries. Yeah, that's the old Perkins building.
No way.
Yeah.
Say, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the exact same layout. The Perkins, all the prototypes were kind of made that layout of the restaurant with the dual kitchens and so forth.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I started out was with that. Went up to Wisconsin and worked in those locations up there. I kind of became more of a troubleshooter for the kitchens and kind of where there was a issue that I kind of went into the kitchen and kind of fixed those type of things. So, and then I ended up vice president of Perkins. It used to be, had bought a franchise in Florida, came up and offered me a job down in Florida. So I worked with him for quite a while and stayed down there for a couple of years, and then came back up to Wisconsin, started with Marcus Corporation. And while I was with Marcus Corporation with the big boy chains, worked the Summerfest grounds up there, ended up kind of wanting getting on my own and things like that. So my wife's parents lived here in Grant Park, and this came available. So that's kind of how we ended up over here. We were looking at property up in Kenosha. I lived in Kenosha at that time. We were looking at a unique property up there. It was like an old church that was kind of converted and it closed down. But
Kenosha is such a cool town.
Yeah, it's
right along the lake, and
they have a lot to offer. It's large but small. It's hard to kind of describe.
Gives that right. Yeah, it gives that feeling of it's large but small.
Over 200,000 people, I think, there, but you wouldn't. It doesn't feel like that. Really.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique setup, and like you said, at the lake, you have all those amenities there that are right at your fingertips. And if you want to, you have the option of going up to Milwaukee, or you can go to Chicago as well. I mean, you're within 45 minutes, both directions. So
that's a good spot.
You're looking at doing a nightlife type thing. It's really easy to go either direction from there.
So when you were looking at properties, then what was the intent of doing exactly what you're doing now, or what was the original idea?
Yeah, the intent was to do something different than just normal food aspect, to create something that's a little bit unique, a unique location.
Something
be able
historical.
To do special events. Historical is kind of a little bit of a push towards, but we were looking at doing like special events. And that's, we had the idea of doing our mystery dinner, mystery dinners. They had the train mystery dinner up in Milwaukee there that was very popular. So kind of thought, man, that'd be kind of a neat thing to do as a special event in a restaurant setting. When we took this over a couple months after we were here, contacted the theater department at Olivet and got some leads with them, and we kind of talked and worked with their group, and we started putting things together. And gave them a little bit of a project to come up with a storyline and whatnot. We kind of interject how we do the food and make it a flow, nice flow type situation. And we've been doing that, for 29 years. We've been doing the mystery dinners. And
is it still Olivet that you
it
work
is
with?
not Olivet at this point. We actually have our own cast that we put together. It's a group of different adults and people that are very into, the acting and having fun and whatnot. We work as a team as coming up with the ideas as far as what our play is going to be about, or a mystery dinner is going to be about. So everybody has a say in like how we want to set it up and
do you actually write them, or
we write? Yeah, we do our own. Yeah, we
oh,
don't.
that's cool.
Yeah, we don't. So yeah, we come up with the ideas. We kind of
Well,
storyboard it out.
That would save you some money because licensing for
right.
because it just to give you a backstory, if you're not familiar with how it works putting on any live play or musical, you have to buy or you have to get a license in order to perform that.
Right.
So, and that can be pricey.
Yeah, we looked into that, and that was one of the reasons we thought, well, we'll take a look at this and see how we can, come up with some different ideas and fun ideas and stuff like that. And again, it was kind of unique because we do a 5-course dinner for it. Kind of think of the event as acts. So my cast is actually have to finish a certain thing before we serve soup. And did somebody die? Can we serve dinner yet? So my kitchen's kind of waiting. Did the body get pulled out? Can we actually serve the meal now?
You don't want to trip over the dead body.
Right. And we try to let the audience that, the guests that are here kind of have fun with it. They don't have to actually take a role. So if you want to come and sit back and that person
observe.
That does want to be, a little extroverted or want to be back, you can watch and observe and take notes on our program. We have a place you can, figure out who said what or what you saw and figure that mystery out. But if you want to get involved, you want to question one of the cast members that did something and ask, hey, how come I saw you leave, or I did, whatever, you're able to do that as well. And kind of a lead person that kind of reels the group in. So it's not, a forever time. You kind of get everybody back on track and get that together. But if you're a really good detective, we actually give a gift certificate out to the winners. So there is a little bit of incentive. So towards the end of the play, you have to write down who you think did it. We collect all those answers from everybody so no one can change their answer at the end. And then we finish out the play and, you can find out, did I pick the correct person? Did I not correct? And our cast is very personal. They hang out after the event, so you can kind of talk to them and find out who they really are. And so it's a very touchy-feely type setup. We only use this room here for that, so it's a smaller group. So you get to know everybody. You might make some new friends at the same time too that you come in with.
You do that all year round?
We do that year round. Usually we try to produce one show per month. And we also do it for like private groups too. We've done it for bachelor parties, birthday parties, anniversary parties, where, we gear it towards them a little bit. So sometimes we have some fun. We get some information about the guest of honor or whatever, and we maybe work some things in on that as well.
Oh, that must be fun.
And currently right now we're doing a Roaring 20s theme. So, we've had everybody probably about 60, 70% of the guests kind of come in dressed in that period of time. Our cast is all dressed in that period for costumes and stuff. And everybody seems to really like it. So we're rolling with that for the rest of the year, and probably the 1st of January we'll still have that. And we have a lot of fun props and stuff that are for photo ops and things like that you can take. So
and then there's also the Hogwarts experience that you do as well, or is that?
Yes, we're still working with that. That's our wizarding dinners that we hold here at the mansion itself. We transform the entire mansion from the porch. When you walk up to our porch into every room, there's not a room that isn't set up that way. So you're immersed into it for that time frame that you're here. You get an opportunity to get sorted. We play a trivia during dinner again. So you are playing for our house cup. So you have bragging rights in between each of the sessions. So you might have that cup on your table. You just won the last session, but it could be taken away from you towards the end of the game. And then we have some other things that, go on with different photo ops and things like that. 2 years ago, we added our escape room. Again, that's something we've built.
In the house, or is it like out in the...
It's an escape room that we have set up. It's Escape from Azkaban. Right now, you have an opportunity to try to escape from that. It's usually, we have up to 8 players for that. So you have an opportunity, give you about an hour to get out. So, and you don't have to be a Harry Potter fan or know a lot about Harry Potter. I mean, it could help. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. We have some really unique things to try to puzzles and things to try to figure out. They are geared towards that aspect of it, but it's not a necessity to know that. You need some other skills with you as well.
And now that's not something you have to book that in advance. You can't just show up.
Right. It's a pre-booking type thing. We'll start that at the end of October. We'll have that room set up and we'll go through probably the end of January. We do a lot of, and you can come out just to do the escape room, or we have like a special dinner that you get your dinner and then you can go and do the room as well. So
and I would imagine the dinner itself is all geared around the things you would eat at Hogwarts, right?
Yeah. So it's and then, the decor is set up that way as well. So it's kind of a little bonus type thing. We do private birthday parties with the Harry Potter theme as well. So you can set that up. So we have that available, and we have that available year round. We'll transform the dining rooms into a great hall and that type of thing.
That's so fun.
We actually sort the birthday party or the group or anniversary party and things like that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Everybody comes out and we encourage everybody to come dress. We have cosplayers that are set up for this. That's here at our location, but we also do our festivals. Wizard festivals.
Is that the one that takes place at Northfield Square?
We did one. Yeah, we've done it at Northfield Square Mall. We've been up in Chicago. We work with Boys and Girls Club right now in Indiana. We've done some fun. We've done those as fundraisers at the clubs themselves. Actually, we have one coming up at the end of October 23rd, I believe it is. It's a Saturday up in Portage, and that we transform the entire club into Hogwarts. You're immersed. You actually get to go to classes there. We have our professors teaching defense against dark arts.
That's even better.
Potions and flying lessons and so on and so forth. So you get an opportunity to really immerse yourself. With COVID, we had to kind of switch gears a little bit. We came up with the idea of setting up a school schedule. So as you came in, you checked in, you were in period 1, period 2, whatever. So you stayed with your class. So it was like maybe a group of 20 that moved. So you got a class schedule. We actually have a big school bell that we ring to move. So you have a passing period. We also have study hall, which you can go get food or whatever. You have a meal period as well. So it's very geared, like you feel like you're going from class to class and you get moved around. But it was also for the safety of the guests and trying to keep everybody together, but everybody really liked it. So we've continued that through right now. And obviously the groups are a little bit larger, but we continued that format, which everybody seems to really like.
Oh, absolutely. So getting back to the house, what is your favorite part about this house, or what are some cool parts about this house that are very unique? I mean, besides what we've already talked about, the historical sense. Because this is actually is this a historic?
It is not, because of the changes that everybody's made throughout the years.
No, that's a bummer.
We do maintain that though. The addition we did put on, we talked about earlier about that in closing. I actually took the windows and we used the same windows the house had on the back and we put them on the side. So it looks like if you're looking at the side of the house,
you think it's
still the original. We used the same cedar siding, which was a little bit difficult to find because the size of this is a size that's not typically made. It's a bigger slat than we're using. We had a maintenance gentleman that worked with us part-time, and we created a tool to cut out to make the slats the same size as this, because the boards are a little bit larger than they're supposed to be. So we have a little bit more of an overlap than you normally would, but just so it matches up with the house. So it looks like one continuous. We thought it was important to kind of maintain that as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, the structure, it's interesting. I mean, pocket doors were kind of a fun thing to see if they would work or not work when we first got in here. So it's kind of a cool, fun. This was carpet originally. When we got in, I decided to kind of, let's just pull this up and see what this actually looks like and how much work we want to put in. And we pulled it up and I got the big sander out, and we decided to go ahead and go for it and redo the floor. So decided to go ahead and show everybody what that looks like, and the architecture and the skill that those gentlemen had when they were building this, and having the patience to make thousands of these little 1-by-1 cuts and then drop them all, and then make them all fit and drop in, and they're not, they fit. I mean, it fits all the way through. So, and to do hundreds of square feet of those is amazing.
Math is important.
Yeah. And then you can kind of see that like in our doors are all original. The glass is all original in the front main room here. We have the curved glass.
That's one of the coolest parts about this house is the stained glass windows.
Yeah. The stained glass that was brought in from a church out in Missouri, but it's the same period time. And that's the ones that go up the staircase. I located, again, we're trying to keep the flow. We're in our, what we call our rose room, we have that large stained glass back there. They're two circular pieces or half circles. That actually was a find when I was looking for restaurant equipment to convert. The previous owners pretty much used more household equipment. We were looking at doing a different menu, so we put a hood system in.
You want commercial equipment.
So looking at on my excursions out, and I'm one that like doesn't have a problem kind of looking at different places, digging in and looking. And something caught my eye. There's a huge piece of stained glass that was set up at the location that we were up at. And I was like, are those for sale? And the salesman, I don't know. The owner owns those. Let me go see. Bought them for his wife. So he talked and went back and forth. And lo and behold, he called me and said, yeah, you know what? We had this huge idea. We figured out what we're going to do with those, but it's just not going to work out. They're just too big. So I said, well, I'd be interested in those pieces if I could do it. So, I mean, those were found just in the same period of time. They had already did the rework on those because they did have cross and stuff inlaid in there, and they just don't, want to produce, have that. So they kind of changed that out, but they used the same color stain and stained glass and everything in there. So you couldn't even tell if you were looking at those pieces. There are actually two pieces. My idea was to make them look into a circle. They actually went above doorways. They were like the arches on the two doors going into the church. So they were up above that. So I just kind of envisioned them, flip them on top of each other, put them on there, and boom, we fill that wall back there. It kind of ties in. So you walk in the front of the house, you see that stained glass, and you walk through the dining room, you see the stained glass again. Yeah. Even though that room is brand new, it still gives you the feel that room was always there. So,
yeah. And I know you kind of talked about the upstairs a little bit it's got crown molding as well, which you said is kind of unusual, but do you utilize the upstairs is that mostly storage?
Actually, I live on premise still.
Oh, okay.
One of my sons lives on premise as well. We have a third floor above that. That's
There's
fully
3
finished.
floors.
Yeah. So that's fully finished up there as well. So that's like a whole nother setup with,
so that's you guys living up there.
So we live up there. We have one room that we have as a ready room for the brides. So it's a whole setup. They can get dressed and mirrors and vanity.
Well, I imagine probably
so
for
forth.
some of your cast members too, for like murder mysteries and stuff.
And as you mentioned, storage, yes. Lots of storage, yes.
Well, I know you still have the original coach house, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I'm sure you use that.
The upstairs is all storage. Downstairs, we have a bar set up in there and kind of set up an area for the DJ can set up in there, do a cake display and so on. So we kind of use the lower area for the outdoor events. The tent set up right in front of that. So it's like a big indoor-outdoor setup. So it works out well for us. And then the above area is all storage and very well stored.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got to have some, especially all the Harry Potter stuff. And
actually, there's probably very little Harry Potter in that. We went, the direction we went with that. They're all in trailers right now.
Okay.
So we try to, since we use that for the festivals, it was easier than to.
Oh, that's true. Get it
come down. Unfortunately, the coach house has the old 2-foot staircase going up there, so it's a very skinny staircase going up with a trap door type setup.
Oh man!
So it's going up to like the hayloft type setup. So I mean, it's all the original flooring up there and joists and so on and so forth. So
it's a little scary.
It's been there, but again, it's sturdy with that walnut, and the walnut's a solid 3-inch pieces of wood. So it's built to last. So obviously.
And also want to point out this. Some might be wondering, the same Bennett-Curtis that you might see out at festivals selling food, that is you. That is the Bennett-Curtis as well of this house. You guys are at so many different festivals throughout the county, or just events that are outdoor events or indoor events that Bennett-Curtis.
It's another aspect that we like doing. It was kind of a fun thing for us to venture off and see what what that was all about, and it just kind of took off. And we decided, we started out in a tent and start popping up the tent and at those events and cooking and popping up. And I was like, okay, could we make our life a little bit easier? And eventually we moved into the trailer, and then here we are now.
And some of your signature items, what are you best known for?
We're known for our Texas potatoes, which are a red roasted potato, and we build them there. So pretty much put everything on there. We have roasted peppers, jalapenos, bacon, sour cream, nacho cheese goes on top of that. If you don't want any of that, you can pull it, but we build it, right then, right there for you. But get all that stuff on top there, and we continually are cooking and roasting throughout the event. We have a homemade mac and cheese that we do. So that's been a really popular item as well. And our pulled chicken kind of can be a sandwich, or it also goes on top of that mac and cheese or on top of the potatoes. So it kind of gets a double type thing. So those have been our popular items. I mean, we do our Black Angus burgers and beer brats and so on, but those are probably our top selected items at the events. And it's something different. Everybody does fried. We don't do any fried food. So a lot of the outdoor, and that was one of our goals, is not to do fried food, is to, offer something that isn't fried. So that's kind of the direction we took. So
yeah, it's something different.
Offer something a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to stand out from what everyone else is doing. So if people want to reach out to you or find out more about the Bennett-Curtis House, where do they go?
They can go to our website, which they can pull everything we're talking about is all available on there. It's Bennett-Curtis.com. And they can reach out old school and call us. 815-465-2288. Like our Facebook page and message us that way. So, I mean, we have all the medias are available. That's kind of a little bit different now. It's kind of hard sometimes on our end as a business trying to figure out where we want to reach out to everybody. But if they want to reach out to all those different medias, we're available all the way.
Well, you definitely helped put Grant Park on the map. So I feel like Bennett-Curtis House is so important to the county. So thanks for
thank you.
Thanks for all you do. So
I think we appreciate all the support we get from the community. We're very community oriented. We try to, you mentioned those events and things like that. A lot of times we're at special events and do some donations back to a lot of causes and things like that as best we can.
Awesome. Is there anything else about Bennett-Curtis or anything like that you want to mention?
I think we talked to and kind of covered all our bases. There's a lot.
I mean, there's so much.
I'm sure everybody's just kind of like, okay, well, you guys do all this stuff, all kinds of stuff.
There is
how
a
you
lot.
keep that.
That's why I wanted to point out like the same Bennett-Curtis you see.
Yeah, and everything's kind of just as a separate. Kind of run each thing as a separate business. The food truck is a separate type entity. We run the festivals. Actually, we have wizardingevents.com. You can go on that. That's a separate website, and that specifically is all geared towards our wizarding events that we hold and things like that. You can go and check out photos and find out about dates and tickets availability and things like that. And in Bennett-Curtis, you can go on there and all the information about our special events with mystery dinners and if you want to hold a shower or weddings. That's probably our biggest thing is our weddings and ceremonies. You can do everything on premise. It's probably one of the unique things about the location. You can plan it completely outside. If Mother Nature decides not to cooperate with you, you can move the event inside and you don't have to worry about. We set everything up on an A and a B plan for everyone. So hopefully take a little bit of worry out for everyone that, wants to plan that outdoor event, because that's probably the first thing on their mind is, you're worrying about the weather and you're like looking at the weather report and driving yourself crazy for the 10 days, 7 days before, 3 days before.
Yeah, you're just constantly checking.
Yeah, checking radars and, whatever to see, okay, how's the cloud moving? Which way is the wind blowing? Is it
take one of those weather watcher classes? Is that what they call them? Or the
storm chasers?
I don't know. There's like a class you can take.
Meteorology.
And it teaches. It's just like it's like a 1 or 2 time session, and it teaches you how to read a radar. And I can't remember what they call it, but like you can take those classes and I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, we look at, the Farmer's Almanac, however they put that together, they're pretty spot on.
You find that they're spot on?
They're very close. No one's going to be perfect with the weather.
No. Yeah.
But get a general idea what it looks like that time of year or coming up or whatever. And again, it's not a foolproof type thing. And like I said, we offer that little bit of a security of the event and a little bit of peace of mind that, okay, it's not 100%. And we have our covered walkway leads to the tenant area. So you can still be outside in the event, still feel like you're out in the gardens and things, but still be undercover and not your perfect ideal situation that you're, dreaming about and out in the lawn and sun and so on and so forth. But you can still kind of get all those things, aspects of it still. And you have the ambience of the mansion as well. So sometimes we do kind of a flip-flop type thing where we'll start out in the garden and come back into the mansion and you have this ambience and you go back out and the lights all take effect and you're out in the garden again. So kind of get best of both worlds. So
yeah, it's nice to have that option if need be, if the weather's not cooperating.
Yep.
So.
It's one of those things with an outdoor event. We deal with it every single weekend because, there's probably not a weekend that we are not at an outdoor event. So obviously not every weekend is not raining. So
yeah, right.
So we're kind of one of those situations where we're prepared for it. We're used to it. Obviously somebody that's getting married for the first time and planning an outdoor event for the first time is going to be a little bit more on edge than us.
You're like,
yeah.
Don't worry.
We'll bring a second uniform with you. We have a setup uniform that you're in the rain and do a quick change and get some dry things on or start again.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, thank you so much, Scott.
I appreciate it. It was
a
good
lot
talking
of
with you. Yeah.
Definitely.
All right.
Well, that concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore. Thank you so much for listening. Please share this podcast with a family member, friend, or neighbor that you think might enjoy learning new things about the people and places of Kankakee County. Also, a special thank you to our patrons for helping make this episode possible, including Karen Bishop, James Reardon, Jake Lee, Jesse Arsenal, Dave Barron, Daryl Damper, Samantha Rocknowski, Lake Iverson, Travis Garcia, Jane Bostwick, Dawn Harrison, Simon Topless, Scott Wright, Carrie O'Connell, Jamie Race, Joanne Barry, Anthony Vicelli, Eric Olson, Jeff and Rosa Carroll, Teague Dreenan, Sandy and Steve Twait, and Rose Lucky. To become a podcast patron, go to KankakeePodcast.com and then just click on the Patron tab. If you pledge $5 or more per month, you'll also hear your name announced on an episode. There's also other rewards like early access to new episodes, unedited versions of episodes, even video versions of select episodes, podcast merch, discounts on special events, and so much more. Your monthly pledge is truly appreciated. Our monthly goal right now is to reach $400 per month. And right now, we're about 37% away from reaching that goal. So please sign up for the patron program today at KankakeePodcast.com. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.